The challenge in doing anything in Nepal is the topography. The Himalayas are only the biggest of the mountains there. The entire country is covered by mountain ridges and deep valleys. Interestingly, Kathmandu would not exist, and perhaps not even Nepal would exist, if it wasn't for a large prehistoric lake which filled all the valleys around Kathmandu with sediment eroding from the Himalayas, which created the flat plains where the city and the airport now sit. In the satellite image, you can see Kumari to the left or the west from Kathmandu. Building a wireless internet network to Kumari begins with defining the radio links. Internet service comes from India and recently from China by optical fiber into Kathmandu. After talking to several internet service providers in Kathmandu, we selected Sustainable Networks operated by Anil Shrestha, who you previously met. The first challenge then is getting service from Kathmandu to Kumari. Looking along a line from Kathmandu to Kumari, you can see the mountains in between. Because links between locations must have a clear line of sight, Anil identified a location on a mountain ridge called Nagarjun between Kathmandu and Kumari, which provides clear line of sights to both of them. Having figured out how to get service to Kumari, we asked Jagat which additional villages he wanted to connect to provide them with telemedicine service from the Kumari clinic and internet service to their schools. In the time we had scheduled, we could only do a few. Jagat chose 3 villages, Diali, Bagakur, and Devithan for telemedicine, and 3 schools in addition to the one in Kumari, Ponchase, Ruping, and Barindra. Using Google Earth, we laid out the network and checked the line of sight between locations. In order to reach the village of Bagakur, for example, it was determined we would have to have an intermediate tower at a location called Swara. Our initial network design is shown here. With this network design, we could then specify the best suited radios and antenna needed. For this, I relied on Dan Denson, who runs his own internet service in Wyoming, and whose wife, incidentally, is a nurse who is from Nepal. As we only had 8 days scheduled for the installation and would be working in a remote area with no internet service, we decided to configure all the radios ahead of time and organize the plan and logistics so that we could get the network, computer classrooms, and telemedicine locations all connected as quickly as possible. To do this, we assembled the complete network in my basement, got everything configured, and tested the entire network under a simulated load. Here we see all 21 radios, routers, and switches hooked up in the network. We have internet service into the network from our local internet provider. 4 computers are hooked up, all running high-definition video. The trick in setting up the system is to not use the antenna and simply have the radios only near enough to pick up the signal. Here, for example, is the Nagarjun Tower with a radio link to Kathmandu and on to Kumari, with a side branch to the village of Devithan. Here is the Kumari setup with the links to the school, women's center, and wirelessly broadcast to the compound. Additional connections go from Kumari out to the connected communities and schools. Besides completing the equipment configuration, this setup allows us to test network capabilities for controlling bandwidth to different classes of users, providing higher priority to the telemedicine users. With all the radios, routers, and switches configured, all the gear was organized into individual bags for each location, with installation instructions included. With that, all we needed to do was to pack it all up and squeeze it into 4 checked bags, which weighed just under our 200-pound total limit. With our bags aboard, Dr. McKeague and I set out for Kumari via Los Angeles, Guangzhou, China, and Kathmandu. Getting to Kumari is definitely not half the fun, as the trip takes a minimum of 27 hours of travel from Portland to Kathmandu. Our arrival in Kathmandu was uneventful, unlike the experience of others. Amazingly, our 200 pounds of electronic gear made it through customs in the U.S., China, and Nepal without a problem. The Kathmandu airport is crowded, but nothing compared to the traffic jams in the city on our way to the hotel. Kathmandu is one of the most crowded and dirty cities I've seen, though there are worse ones in India and China, I'm told. The roads are in terrible condition and there is dust everywhere, although much worse because of the recent earthquake. The people, though, are friendly and hardworking and willing to help in any way. The Tibet Guest House is a very comfortable and quiet oasis in the middle of the major tourist area of Kathmandu. Because our schedule was so tight, we had to go to work immediately on our arrival. So after unpacking, we took all the gear over to Anil's shop at Sustainable Networks, where we assembled the radio and antenna, mounted it on their tower, and connected it to the network via the router shown here. The next morning, the medical and internet teams left Kathmandu in our four-wheel drive vehicles. The medical team headed straight for Kumari, while the internet team made a stop on top of Nagarjun to install the relay antennas between Kathmandu and Kumari. The route is easy using Google Earth, but the reality on the ground is something else.
We're here.
You got some brakes?
So that's the tower there. With the temporary power beams on it. We'll be replacing those with the bigger rocket dishes. So this is the landlord. You own this property, yeah. Yeah. And the guys are getting their climbing harnesses on. So this is the bag with all the goodies we packed. The edge router, cables, surge protectors. Okay, Dr. Doug, what do you think of all this?
Well, I don't know what I thought, but I didn't think that it was as complicated as that obviously it's turned out to be.
It's getting a little late in the day. We'll see how this goes. We're up there now putting the switch in place, and so a single cable will run up to the switch, and then it'll be branching from there to the three antennas, three radios antennas. Sun's going down, everybody's still hard at work. Guys are up on the tower finishing the connections. Meanwhile, our landlord is working on burying the cables. And over there, the solar panel mounting has been finished out with some excellence. Looks like bamboo stakes. Everybody working away, hooking up the batteries and the solar panels and the solar controller and the battery charger. A lot of wires. So that's Kumari?
Yeah, this is a school and then little downside Kumari.
It's 7:12 p.m. here in Nagarjun. The blue lights show that we have power to the radios, and we've checked connections both back to Kathmandu and to Kumari. So all is good.
So it's about 5:30 Saturday morning. It's New Year's in Nepal. And this is a view of some of the mountains in the distance. So this is the Kumari compound. I slept last night in the medical clinic facility over there. And this is the community facility that the community has actually built along with everything else around here. And this is Jagat.
Hi, namaste.
Jagat is fixing me coffee from Kumari. This is Kumari grown coffee. Can you believe that? Absolutely incredible. So this is the view out towards Nagarjun Tower. You really can't see it too well because of the haze, but it's in there somewhere where we were last night. We have internet service now. Anil with us, Sustainable Networks has done an amazing job of getting all the gear installed, and then when we got here, there was some problems with the router here, and he got another router that we had brought in and got everything working, so we have internet service. So things are going really well. What happened this morning?
So this gentleman right here, he came to me and asked me if I would consider looking at a young lady who might be aborting. And we haven't had too much of that up here. And I'm a long way away from being comfortable with stuff like that. So it's Bernhard. You might want to...
Yeah. Well, long story short, I think the woman was diagnosed being pregnant 11 days ago and now started to bleed, and she is about to lose her baby, we fear. But between the two of us and an ultrasound,
Right?
and good equipment, I think we could figure it out.
Yeah, I had the opportunity, because I've done many of them in the past, to do a pelvic exam on it and to check and see whether the uterus was gravid, what we call gravid, and it was firm, which it needed to be, because if it was not firm, that would have been a sign of abortion. And then we did the speculum exam with the nurses, and there is a little bit of bleeding, but it's not that much. So between those two determinations, we reassured her that if this was an abortion, it would probably happen in the next 24 hours. We're going to let her go back to where she is, and with the understanding that she would come back here immediately. It's quite possible that things will work out for her. So use the ultrasound.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And that's amazing when you consider that we've not had much experience
Yeah.
with ultrasound.
Well, I thought it was fortuitous that you slept in your scrubs.
Thanks.
And
But I was in the middle of my shower.
so this is breakfast in Kumari. It looks pretty good. Hey, Dr. Doug?
Not bad in the middle of the foothills here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not bad at all.
And the papaya is local, and the watermelon. Also? And the bananas?
Bananas are local too?
After breakfast, I took a short walk down the road where you can see these beautiful terraces where the villagers grow wheat, millet, and rice. Here are a couple of the villagers coming back after cutting some of the greens. In the afternoon, we drove to Sword Tower to make sure the installation was complete and ready to go. Dr. Doug volunteered to climb the tower and make sure that it was solid.
So we're taking a break at the local grocery store.
Next morning, I and Bob Nielsen, one of the founders of HE4N, went for a walk in the neighborhood.
When we first came here, there was no roads coming up here, and we walked over to Trusley, the nearest health place over in Northwood, and to get a perspective of what they had to do for medical, and that's why we put the clinic where it's at. And it was just beautiful. And like it, what you said, it's just beautiful.
It's amazing.
And you know, the people have always been friendly, they were hardworking. The earthquake has added the dimension that they have to rebuild that we didn't see. And it's taken, what are we now? It was 2015, we're in 2018, and that was amazing about the $3,000, or 300,000 rupees that the government's supporting that much.
For each house.
For each house.
Yeah.
It's still not enough, but it's at least support.
Well, when you think about how many people that is,
Yeah.
that's a lot of money. What a beautiful day.
Yeah, it is.
Women seem to be the only ones out working in the fields. I was also told to bring toys to hand out to the kids, which was great fun. This patient lady is Swastika, the wife of the pharmacist who agreed to teach Bob how to carry heavy loads on his head.
We're learning how to carry this. Is she putting something on the back? Am I good to move?
Are you good? She's good. You're good.
Okay.
We're all good.
You must straighten up your back.
Oh, it's gonna all fall off. I think you have to walk with less bounce. You have to walk smoothly. That's.
Smoothly? Is that
Huh?
better?
Yeah, that's better.
Where are we going?
Come this way.
Are we going down?
Yeah, no.
Oh, I think I better let her
Yeah.
take it. Did I lose it?
No, you're okay.
I am totally impressed. Yeah, that really is.
That's heavy, huh?
Heavy. I am totally impressed. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah.
You have to bring down.
Oh, sure. You lead the way.
Okay.
We follow.
First you are going.
I don't know where I'm going. Okay, you go. We follow. We'll follow.
But you are going slowly, sir.
That was heavy. I mean, that was heavy. It was. She said 20 kilos, 44 pounds. I'd say it's closer to 60 kilos.
Yeah.
Not kilos, 60 pounds.
60 pounds, yeah. On your head. On your neck, basically. And off she goes. So they build all these dikes and irrigation ditches. And of course they're all destroyed in the monsoon, heavily damaged, so they all have to be repaired. It's really, really work intensive.
And this is Swastika's farmhouse.
Yeah, be careful.
Oh.
There's a beehive right here. So as you come around, just go around, and and you notice they cook in here. And you notice it's kind of like cigarette. You're inside of the cigarette.
Yeah,
So be careful, don't hit your head. Well, you're probably.
I'm short. Yeah.
And they have no light right now. So they have electricity like everybody else does. And
after.
so this was cracked here. And they repaired.
Yeah.
Could you stay in the house? Were you able to stay in the house?
This impossible. Yeah.
Okay.
And this is the beautiful view from Swastika's farm. After our morning walk, the major agenda item for the day was a meeting with government officials to discuss plans for the clinic and school. Our able translator is Sugarika, a former Miss Nepal and a television personality, but most importantly a very strong advocate for health and education for Nepal. This is Dr. Bernard Faisal, who was brought in by HE4N to help in improving the efficiency of the clinic and its relationship with the government.
I love Nepal and I love the people of Nepal. This is a wonderful experience every time I come. So thank you so much for your warm welcome. So I'm a doctor, but we all have the same vision for rural Nepal, which is that health should be available to all people regardless of where they live.
म डक्टर हुँ डक्टर हुँदा हुँदै पनि नेपालको रुरल एरिया भनेको गाउँघरमा जहाँ पहुँच कम भएका छन् त्यो क्षेत्रमा पनि स्वास्थ्य र शिक्षाको पहुँच हुनुपर्छ भन्ने उहाँको सोच छ.
In that role, I have come to this project, being invited by Randy and his team to help to develop this clinic into a center of excellence. Now, I've been around Nepal for a long time, and I've worked with the government, I've worked with international NGOs, with Nepali NGOs, and I learned a few things. So, international projects have a problem because they are owned by white people. Nepal projects need to be owned by Nepali people. A Nepali problem requires a Nepali solution. So our role here is to be the starters. We can get something started. But to help Nepali people be their own solution for the problems that they face. For a clinic or a hospital to be under Nepali management is not optional, it is mandatory. And we also find that it needs to be under the government management and not private management. So we need to find some way of forming a partnership, because we don't want to own it. We want the community to own it. There's a lot of opportunities to make this particular place into a great example of how public-private partnership can transform healthcare in rural Nepal. I would like to open this group up now for discussion, so we can take all your suggestions and we can come up with a plan on how it would be most feasible to proceed. Thank you.
In spite of Dr. Faisal's optimistic hopes expressed here in April of 2018, it wouldn't be unreasonable to doubt that the Nepali government would move quickly, if at all, to support Kumari and integrate it effectively into the country's healthcare system. However, with the support of HE4N donors, the medical staff from the University of Utah, including Dr. Faisal, and most importantly, the energy of Jagat Lama, miracles have again occurred at the Kumari Medical Clinic, accelerated by the recent COVID outbreak. This year, 2020, Kumari has been declared a regional hospital. The neonatal care facility has expanded significantly. The Kumari Medical Clinic is now seeing 500 patients a month. I must say I was a little intimidated rooming with the 3 senior administrators of health and education for Nepal, but it turned out to be like living in a freshman dorm. Here the Doug, Bob, and Randy trio demonstrate their rendition of "They Built the City on Rock and Roll."
Oh yeah, you gotta do it. That's the auditions. Okay.
Oh,
Cut that out.
Another great breakfast. Not exactly traditional, but delicious. After breakfast, we went over our installation plan to get the details hashed out.
Drive out here and meet up with, how long is it going to take you to get around to here?
Virendra to Rupin. Do not talk only about Virendra. First of all, we have to talk about the Devithan. Where is the Devithan?
After the discussion of our installation plan, we headed up to the school to complete the installation of the computer classroom. Here is the antenna connecting the school classroom down to the Kumari clinic.
so it rained really hard last night, a tremendous thunderstorm. Power went out, hail, so almost like a monsoon season event. So there's just water everywhere, so everyone is with the brooms cleaning up. This is our restaurant area, kitchen area up here. But blue skies, check it out. So if we can get the internet up, that's the only problem right now. We can hit the road and do the installations at the remote pharmacies.
This morning, we literally had a basket case brought in. This man was carried by a family member over quite a distance over steep and difficult ground. The medical team taped him up, and we think he's going to be okay. This is a telemedicine training session with the medical staff.
Okay, so you need to communicate that to us so we can get in a good light. Okay.
देखिए ना भन्नु पर्यो तपाईको फेस कहाँ अलि यहाँ कहाँ दुख्यो राम्रो देखो भन्नु
Now that's good. That's good.
Okay, okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
You go. Thank you.
That's it.
So we're getting ready to head out for today's installations. We got 3 crews basically, one going out to 2 distant village pharmacies. The second crew will go to an intermediate tower connecting to the second pharmacy. The third crew will stay here in Kumari and assist with alignment to the pharmacies and to the tower. So it's going to be a full day.
Good for the animal. You gotta go up this.
Wow.
Put it now, hey now.
Ooh, we made it. So we're in the clinic in Diale, and this is the pharmacy, I should say. So we're going to start doing the installation, putting a pole up and mounting the radio and antenna.
The medical guy, we are here now in Diale. He's running little medical store here. And he has been more than 10 years here.
So we're installing the pole at Bial, using some of our high-tech equipment. A weight from the pharmacy. It's a lot of drugs. So we've got the antenna up. Pointed at Kumari. And we've got lots of help here. Lots of help, right? So Bob, how did the training go?
It's happening right now.
सर्च गर्नुको कुनै औषधिको बारेमा तपाईँ सर्च गर्नु about medicine or something अथवा विश्व कुनै पनि डाक्टर
So Bob is working with the pharmacist with translation by Jagat.
फलानु medicine like medicine for fever, medicine for any like
So we're in business. We're
बिरामी डाक्टर बिरामी
doing telemedicine from Dial Pharmacy back to the clinic in Kumari.
हेलो
हेलो चलिरहेको छ
नेटको प्रब्लम हो कहिले नेटले गर्दा त काट्छ
Okay, let him go to Kathmandu. I mean, that's fine. There's nothing more for us to do here. Leave the IV in and give him some more tramadol just before he leaves. You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, Doug. Yes.
It works. Best idea that
So Jagat, what's the sign up here?
Yeah, this
what
is
does that mean?
one of the communist, revolutionary sign. This one, the communists, every communist used this signal in this sign.
Yeah.
And we had several, stage election just few months before, and that time everybody they advertised, their, election for the votes.
Yeah.
This type of sign, and this is one of the communists. There are 4-5 different communist parties in Nepal. Yeah.
What did your election sign look like?
My election sign was, yes, we use this one too. Yeah, we use this because every communist use this,
Yeah.
And with the sun, the
Sickle?
sun, sun.
Oh, with the sun,
is
yeah.
over there. Yeah, that's
Jagat ran for election as mayor of the local municipality, driven by his concern for the economy, the roads, the health of the people. Unfortunately, his party somehow managed to sell the election, his votes, to another party. This is an occurrence all too often in Nepal, unfortunately. We're on our way from Diale to our next stop in Bagakur. Roads look pretty good. Here we are passing a bunch of kids in the local swimming hole.
So this is a serious washout. We're trying to decide what way we could go to get through it. There's quite a canyon down here. Oh, wrong side. Why are you doing that?
He went to safe road.
Okay.
He ought to be in a Toyota commercial. To see that, a commercial of Toyota.
So we're in Bagakur, and it's clear that we don't have line of sight from Swara Tower, which is over on that ridge, to the pharmacy. So we're up on a high point where a second tower would have to be placed to get it down to the pharmacy.
And then put the antenna on top of it and shoot it from the from Swara into here and then in.
So HE4N is always thinking ahead. So this is going to be not just a health program, but education as well. So health and education for Bagakur. Health and education for Bagakur planning meeting. The first
This is our
first
president
annual
right here.
planning meeting. So what happened today, Doug? How do you describe
No.
the good, the bad, and the ugly?
The
roads were real rough
The roads are real rough.
and
Yeah.
exciting at times.
But we learned, we came out here, and we sort of came and we saw, but we didn't conquer. That's probably the best way to put it.
Yeah.
But now, Anil knows very well what the plan is. Sounds like we lucked into getting the approval of the principal, the school. And so there's nothing holding us back now. Once the tower gets built. So that's where we are, but we won't be putting anything in here today.
Not today. Okay.
It
So
sounds like we went from an expectation to be in one thing, which is part of the performance, to at least three things. And maybe
Possibilities, the possibilities went too.
well, you're definitely going to have a school. And if you get the Women's Center, that's the third.
I mean, we're talking about an investment like the Kumari school in terms of computers and stuff.
It looks doctor. What's the difference than doctor?
Yeah.
What's the difference than doctor? हो तर यी कहाँ त्यस्तो भन्दैन
हामीले चाहिँ भन्यो उसले चाहिँ भन्दैन
So after going to Bagakur, we realized that it was just not going to work. So we're back at Swara Tower, where we've installed solar panel, UPS system, and the relay radios. And we're going to take them down. But the plan is that we will put them back up next year and provide service to the Bagakur school, which is just being finished, hopefully in July. So in yesterday's episode, we went to Bagakur, which is over the hill, accessible from the Swara Tower. Unfortunately, we didn't have a sufficient line of sight from Bagakur to install the internet and computer in the pharmacy there. So plan B for today was to replace the Bagakur pharmacy with support to a local nurse in a community over on this side, which you can't see too well in the haze, but it's just right in the middle there. There's sort of a shiny roof that I think I'm pointing at. Anyways, we're doing some reconfiguration here. Anil and Rezu is Anil's assistant, and Hari, who is the Kumari technician, are working on the system. We just lost power, but we're in the process of hooking up the UPS system so we can run off the batteries that have been installed. So they've put some new antenna up. We had two sector antennas to broadcast to a number of sites on the left as we're looking at it out over there. But because we couldn't install it Bagakur, we decided to put up a single light beam to the Dial pharmacy. If you remember yesterday from the video, we went to Dial and installed it there. So they had to do some reconfiguration, replace the antenna here. You've got to reconfigure, and all that's being done or has been done remotely. So we will then be installing a light beam antenna radio pointing over to Dagagao, it's called. I'm probably not pronouncing that right, to support the community nurse there. Dr. McKeague is particularly excited about that. Rather than support to the pharmacy, support directly to the FHCA, they're called, which is a nurse in an outreach, Nepal outreach program. So, and with luck, we'll be out of here. Meanwhile, there's all kinds of competing activities. Bob is up on the hill at the school. There's a big show and tell with all the computers that we've installed up there. Meanwhile, Bob and Jagat have gone, with some officials to talk about the water system that was installed a while ago and the improvements that they made to that. So I don't know what discussion or ceremony, but they'll be back in a little bit, and hopefully we can stay on schedule today. So that's it from here. So we're off to Dadagao.
Dadagao, yes.
Dadagao, did I say that right? Yes. So tell me again about this about Dadagao and your experience with it.
This is where my son Ian and Mark Lou and I went to take care of people after the earthquake, and it was the first experience that we had to take the medical team out of Kumari right to the village. And this was a village that was almost decimated by the earthquake, with a number of people dead. In fact, we could smell the dead animals when we were there. So we took care of people in the town lean-to, which was used as a community space.
It's kind of mountain Disneyland here.
Mountain Disneyland. One long roller coaster ride. The only ride in the park is one long roller coaster.
In the Hinduism, people they believe when you worship for any kinds of natural things. Sometimes they worship the tree, sometimes they worship a rock, and sometimes they make a temple of a snake, something like that. And they worship also.
Most of the Brahmin are Hindu.
Oh yeah. There's some now changing as Christian, Muslim, but mostly, the 90% Brahmins are Hindu. Now we are in Dadagao. We are reaching the main Dadagao. Dadagao is the village. It's a huge village. Here are over 500-600 families live. This is the whole of Dada. Dada is the hill, and Gao is the village. It's called whole hills villages. Pauju, Maiju, namaskar. Ami aako.
All the stuff that was wrecked.
Yeah, we're gonna go fix this house. This is the house. Like this.
What, right here that we're going
Yeah,
to?
the pinky house. Pink house. I hope this one. This one. So I will find out. Yeah.
This is the nurse in Dadagao. We will be installing the internet on the roof of her house and the computer in her house, providing telemedicine back to the medical clinic in Kumari.
Okay.
So, we're going in. This is where we're going to put it?
Exactly. Yes, sir.
One of the things that you have to deal with in a situation like this is the ancient caste system that was sort of brought over from India for all these people, and they're just now getting over a lot of it, but it's still present in beliefs and everything else. And that caste system has Brahmin, which are the highest caste, followed by the Tamang, followed by what they have a name for it, but it's called the Untouchables. And if you get born into one of those, you stay there. There's nothing you can do to
The
not
caste
stay
system
there.
in Nepal, as Dr. Doug points out, came originally from Hindu culture in India. As in India, people were divided into 4 defined varnas or castes: the Brahmin priests, the Kshatriya kings and warriors, the Vasya traders and businessmen, and the Sudra peasants and laborers, with an additional group technically outside the caste system because of their ritually defiling occupations, which rendered them untouchable by others. While of Hindu origin, the caste was largely independent of religion and had more to do with your occupation or the occupation you were allowed to have. India, Nepal, and other countries which have a caste system have put laws in place to eliminate discrimination based on caste. But like discrimination in every country, it is difficult to eliminate. Dalits, or untouchables, in Nepal, India, and even in Silicon Valley in the U.S., have been discriminated against by higher caste individuals.
Well, the principal thing about this community is that it was sort of a turning point in the whole thought process around Kumari. When Kumari first started, the people of this community, the Brahmin, did come over almost to be curious than it to be anything else than the fact that they were sick. And there's stories behind that, but then they never really used Kumari. And then the earthquake happened. And this community that we're standing in now was devastated, just leveled, and I mean leveled. We're on an outcrop from the mountain that comes straight out, and it must have, the tremors must have run right through the middle of it, because every house was just flat. There was no roof up where it was supposed to be. And to the point where we couldn't come down in a car. And we've come down here maybe, I don't know, a quarter of a mile or so from the, quote, main road. And we had to do it up, we had to take care of it up there. I may ask them to show you where we were up there.
Yeah.
And so basically, we come, we take care of them, we give them food, literally food, bags of rice, bags of lentils. UNESCO had a site, this is all set up once the earthquake happened, and you could come down with trucks, and Jagat rented trucks. I mean, not what we're in, I'm talking about trucks with like 100, 200 bags of rice, sacks of rice on it, and tarp, blue tarp, because that was their home then. They had nothing else, so they erected tarps. And throughout this valley, you could see blue tarps all over.
Wow.
All over. You look on the side of the mountain, and it would be like at a football game. You were holding up cards. So that's what we did here. And when we did that, and we have pictures of that, when we did that, and that was something that it never occurred to Jagat to do, is to take his resources to a community instead of building the resource and having them come.
Yeah.
And that made all the difference. I won't forget the devastation that I saw, because it was just, I said, holy cow. And I don't understand exactly why this place got hit so bad until you look at it from afar. And when you look at it from over on that road, you'll see that it comes out like a little peninsula.
Yeah.
And apparently the earthquake just came right through and just took everything.
Wow.
So there.
Scary experience.
See, I don't think you would see the design.
Yeah, I was admiring that. Check it out. Yeah.
You would not see that in Kumari. You
Yeah.
won't see anything like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of work in that.
Yeah. So, that's the type of subtlety that
Yeah, yeah. Well, thanks, Dr. Doug. So this is the main street in Dadagao. Certainly it was much nicer, much cleaner before the earthquake. But this is a very, very hardworking, industrious community, and so they are rebuilding. But it takes a lot of time and a lot of money, a lot of labor. Namaste. Serious looking cows, bulls. So all these rocks were from a house that once was here before the earthquake. But this particular village was just really hard hit, in the earthquake. And the people here have just done an amazing job. They're, rebuilding from scratch.
So I want to show you what it looks like to be an old woman right behind me.
Yeah.
And she's not fat.
Yeah.
That's not uterine prolapse, but she has uterine prolapse.
Yeah.
And that's what happens, because this has nothing to do with obesity.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It's all the fact that her abdominal muscles are just shot. That's one of the modern concepts that we could do to really bring a little bit less pain and better health. I'd just as soon stand, but thank you. So this is a pretty straight line. Yeah. Boom.
There it is, up on the
Yeah,
hill.
I could see the white stuff. Maybe you cannot find.
So you can see the
the
school right there, and then down below it is
So
Kumari.
Neil and crew have completed the installation of the radio antenna on the roof connected to the Kumari Medical Clinic. We're here in the nurse's home office, and this is a big public event, obviously, judging from all the people that are crowded in.
So you see the cursor right there? That tells you that that's where you're going to be typing.
Yeah, you
567. Dadagao 567. No, so it's too late now. So try again. So hit the
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Just hold the key. One click. There you go. So we heard ringing. So this is the picture that they will see in. There you go.
Hello? नमस्ते सूर्य सर यहाँ चाहिँ दाँत आएको छ डाक्टर साहब त्यही देखाउन लाग्छु मैले तपाईँलाई अझ नजिक दाँत देखियो हातको ए उसलाई यतापट्टि छैन यतापट्टि मात्र भएर देखाएको अब यसरी
So we've just left Dadagao. What do you think, Dr. Doug?
Doctor,
Did that go okay?
Dadagao, yeah, that went
pretty swift.
What do you think, Jagat?
Yeah, we are very happy. We settled everything over there, and the women's group, they are using our internet over there, already connecting with our clinic doctor team. And it's a proud thing. We successfully done that. It's very happy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the real star in the car is Anil.
Yeah.
Good job, Anil.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And the events also.
Yeah.
I like it.
No, you brought a great crew with you.
Yeah.
That was very impressive.
Really active, yeah.
But I suppose the ultimate star is our driver, saving our life every 100 feet.
Can you stop?
Stop just a second. So here's a fantastic view of Dadagao and the amazing terraces. So the village is obviously on the top of that peninsula of land which sticks out, and we were speculating that the earthquake was particularly destructive because you had that tall peninsula sticking out, and it shook violently during the last earthquake. And you can imagine all these terraces were destroyed, would have collapsed. So the first thing you do is get tarps to get under, but then you get out and rebuild the fields. After getting back from Dadagao, we went up to the school where Bob was giving a trainee session for the teachers and some of the adults in the computer classroom.
Okay. DuckDuckGo is like Google. DuckDuckGo search.
After completing the computer class training, we headed down the hill to the clinic. Our last evening in Kumari, and another wonderful dinner. Our last breakfast with the nurses and the staff whom we will all miss. One more class for Bob to teach, this time in the Women's Center. One more telemedicine computer to prep for installation. One more priceless group photo. And our last departure from Kumari, loaded up with luggage and equipment for the day's installation on our way to Kathmandu. Our last installation is at the pharmacy in Devithan. The antenna from here is pointed at Nagarjun Tower, where one of Anil's crew is located and doing the alignment to here.
Left. Why? Other left. No. Why?
With everything hooked up and aligned, we can now connect to Kumari.
ज्वरो आएको छैन जिउ दुखिरहेछ भन्नुभएको छ
जिउ सबै ठाउँमा गलेको जस्तो हुन्छ कि दुखेको मात्रै
We're stopping here for a beer and dalbat after driving down the mountain from Barindra School. It's quite a drive. So this is a fully equipped restaurant. Wash up, live chickens. The kitchen. Here's everyone enjoying our dalbat road stop. Jagat, Bob, and Randy, as founders of Health and Education for Nepal, have put their heart, soul, and treasure into aiding the people of Kumari. Over the years, they have had many volunteers, all putting great effort into this cause. They are constantly thanking their volunteers, whether by a welcome parade into the village or a ceremony and dinner, as we see here. No volunteer asks for this, as we are happy to help, but their gratitude is greatly appreciated. Kumari is now facing even more challenges in 2020, and the volunteers remain committed to helping in any way possible.
So we're all leaving for the airport. Doug is going home, and I'm going to Pokhara. And last view of our lovely Tibet guest house.
We are flying west from the Kathmandu airport towards Pokhara, looking down at the urban sprawl of Kathmandu, which covers approximately 200 square miles and completely fills that prehistoric lake bed which we showed earlier. Further growth is probably unsustainable, one of the many challenges which face Nepal in the future.